The topic of family relationships and old age addresses an issue that deeply affects many older parents, particularly when they must decide whether or not to move in with their children after retirement. This dilemma, which may initially seem like a simple choice, is filled with emotional and practical complexities that impact both generations, parents and their children alike. Some believe that living with family is a way to maintain close bonds and ensure care during the golden years. However, reality is often more complicated. What initially seems like a warm and comforting solution can turn into a situation where sacrifice becomes constant. Older parents begin to question their autonomy and the quality of life they are leading. In a stage of life where calm and peace are supposed to prevail, it becomes crucial to pause and reflect on what it truly means to live fully. With this in mind, I invite you to delve deeper into this reflection, examining the consequences of a decision that so many people must face at some point in their lives. I remember a friend, Anna, a woman whose life was marked by her devotion to her family. After the passing of her husband, she decided that the time had come to move in with her youngest son, Mike. Anna had spent most of her life focused on her role as a mother and wife, giving every part of herself to care for and raise her children with all the love, dedication, and sacrifice that only a mother can offer. When her husband fell ill, Anna stood by his side tirelessly, caring for him tenderly without a single complaint, dedicating her days and nights to his well-being. However, when he passed away, she found herself with a profound emptiness in her life. That void, fueled by loneliness and grief, led her to believe that moving in with her son Mike and being close to her grandchildren could give her life meaning again. Anna firmly believed that her presence in Mike's home would not only help her heal emotionally, but that it would also be beneficial for the whole family. It will be the best for everyone, she used to say with a soft and hopeful smile as she packed her bags and prepared to move. She carried with her the hope that being close to her family, sharing her days with them, would fill the void left by the loss of her husband. For Anna, the move represented much more than just a change of residence. It was an opportunity to reconnect with her son and grandchildren and to feel useful once again. She imagined that by sharing a home with Mike and his wife, Emily, she could help with their daily routines, as well as enjoy unforgettable moments with her grandchildren. The thought of being present in their lives, watching them grow, and being an active part of their day-to-day filled her with excitement. She saw the move as a chance to feel connected again, surrounded by family love, and perhaps find a new sense of purpose in this new chapter of her life. The prospect of being part of a united family, of helping and being helped, gave her the strength to move forward, and the hope of creating memories with her loved ones kept her enthusiastic about the change she was about to experience. At first, everything seemed to be going wonderfully. Mike's house was spacious and comfortable, a place where Anna felt she fit in well. The grandchildren were excited to have their grandmother so close, and the energy in the home was positive. Anna, for her part, found satisfaction in her new routines. She cooked the meals the family loved, helped with household chores, and most importantly, enjoyed the time spent with her grandchildren. She felt that by being there, she was not only warmly welcomed but also contributing significantly to the household's well-being. That sense of being useful and needed filled her with gratitude and reinforced the idea that she had made the right decision by moving in. However, as time went by, that initial harmony began to fade. What were once small gestures of help, like preparing dinner or picking up the kids from school, gradually turned into daily tasks that fell exclusively on her. What started as simple favors to help her son and daughter-in-law turned into a series of daily responsibilities. Without realizing it, Anna found herself assuming a role she hadn't anticipated, the unofficial caretaker of the house. Anna, who had moved in hoping for companionship and emotional support after the death of her husband, found herself trapped in a routine that distanced her from what she had envisioned. The afternoons she had imagined spending reading or taking peaceful walks in the park were replaced by endless to-do lists. Day after day, the obligations seemed to multiply, leaving her with less time and energy to enjoy the moments she truly wanted to experience. What had initially been a rewarding living arrangement had become a burden that grew heavier with each passing day. As her responsibilities increased, the emotional weight of those tasks grew as well. Anna began to feel that instead of finding the emotional support she was seeking, she was losing herself in a cycle of family obligations. What had initially been a move full of promises and new opportunities had turned into a source of exhaustion and frustration. "Mom, can you pick up the kids from school today?" Mike often asked, without realizing the exhaustion that was building up in Anna. Despite feeling the weight of fatigue, she always accepted with a smile, wanting to be helpful and not disappoint her son's expectations. Despite her tiredness, her desire to help and be an active part of the family's life led her to say yes, time and time again. However, over time, something began to change within her. Ironically, despite being surrounded by her family, Anna started to feel a deep sense of loneliness. The daily cohabitation, which she had imagined as a balm for her pain, turned into an emotional burden she had never anticipated. The conversations she had with Mike and Emily, which were once warm and close, became sporadic, focused solely on daily tasks and household logistics. The emotional depth she so deeply craved faded away, replaced by a routine that made her feel like a functional but invisible part of the household's machinery. The feeling of being indispensable for household chores, but increasingly less appreciated as a person, began to erode Anna's spirit. She realized that although her presence was needed, it was no longer valued in the same way. She felt as if she had become part of the furniture in the house, something always there, but taken for granted. That disappointment, initially mild, grew like a shadow slowly enveloping her. It took hold of her almost imperceptibly, to the point where she began to wonder if this was truly the life she wanted for her later years. Anna started questioning whether the sacrifices she was making, putting aside her own desires and needs, were truly worth it. The idea of a fulfilling end of life, surrounded by her loved ones, began to feel more distant and elusive. The expectation she once had of a future filled with satisfaction seemed to fade away. This led her to deeply reflect on the need to find something different, something truly for herself, something that would make her feel alive and fulfilled once again. The first signs of internal conflict appeared subtly, almost like small cracks in what had once been a solid relationship with her family. At first, it seemed normal to Anna that Mike and Emily would ask her for help with household chores or taking care of the kids. But over time, those small requests accumulated to the point where they began to weigh on her emotionally. Anna had always been willing to help. After all, her life had revolved around caring for her family, and she saw her presence in Mike's home as an opportunity to keep contributing. From the beginning, she felt she could be a great support, not just for her grandchildren, but also for her son and daughter-in-law. But as time went by, those little tasks she once did as a favor became more and more frequent, to the point where they turned into a constant expectation. What had once been occasional help soon transformed into a daily responsibility. Anna began to notice that her obligations were increasing. What she had imagined as a balanced life, where she would have time for herself, to rest and enjoy her hobbies, was falling apart as her responsibilities in the household piled up. The hours she had planned to spend reading or enjoying her personal pastimes disappeared, replaced by an endless list of chores. As this new routine became more entrenched, Anna started to feel that she was no longer seen as a mother or grandmother who had come to accompany and share her life with the family. Instead, she began to sense that her presence was viewed more as an obligation, a functional rather than emotional figure in the home. The words of affection and gratitude that had been so common at the beginning gradually faded, replaced by requests that sounded more like disguised orders. "Mom, could you stop by the market today?" Emily would ask in an almost casual tone, as if it were her duty. Over time, Anna became the axis around which many of the household activities revolved. The tasks that Mike and Emily couldn't or didn't want to do fell on her. The balance she had once dreamed of transformed into a routine filled with stress, where the role of mother and guest grandmother dangerously blended with that of an unpaid domestic worker. The cohabitation, which was supposed to be harmonious, became a source of exhaustion and tension. Anna, who had come seeking companionship and comfort, now felt trapped in an endless cycle of responsibilities, with no time for her own well-being. Although she still deeply loved her family, she could no longer ignore the growing weight these expectations placed on her shoulders. a burden she had never anticipated. The weight of this new role became increasingly overwhelming for Anna. What initially seemed like small inconveniences gradually accumulated into a constant source of frustration and tension within the household. Each day, she felt her energy and spirit wearing down. She was trapped in a routine she hadn't chosen, one in which her own desires and needs were systematically ignored in favor of the demands of others. What had once been a genuine enthusiasm for being close to her family began to fade in the absence of recognition and the monotony of daily life. Every time she completed a task without receiving a word of thanks, every request made without considering her mood or her own plans, left an emotional mark on Anna. These silent wounds, small but constant, began to accumulate, eroding her spirit. The home, which was initially supposed to be a refuge for her, a space where she could find peace and companionship, had become something very different. A place where her autonomy and dignity were slowly sacrificed in the name of a family life that no longer fulfilled her. The emotional impact of assuming this role without recognition was devastating for Anna. With each passing day, she felt her sense of identity fading. She was no longer the woman full of life and joy she had imagined herself to be in this new stage, but rather someone reduced to a role that brought neither satisfaction nor comfort. The deep love she had always felt for her son Mike and his family began to be clouded by feelings of resentment and sadness. Anna came to realize that instead of bringing them closer, as she had hoped, this living arrangement was building emotional walls. She feared that if these feelings weren't addressed, those barriers would become insurmountable, threatening to destroy the relationship she cherished so much. The small conflicts and tensions, which at first seemed almost insignificant, began to turn into deeper cracks within a relationship that had once seemed solid and unbreakable. What were once simple misunderstandings or fleeting frustrations were now clear signs that something fundamental was wrong. Anna gradually realized that she could no longer ignore what was happening. Something had to change, and this growing discomfort could no longer be overlooked. Her nights, which used to be filled with peaceful, restorative sleep, turned into long hours of insomnia and reflection. Lying in bed, her mind would constantly travel back to the past, reliving those moments in her life when she truly felt free and in control of her own destiny. She nostalgically remembered the days when she could make decisions without depending on others, when her time was her own, and each day felt full of possibilities. Now, that sense of freedom seemed like a distant memory. What had initially been a slight discomfort soon turned into deep dissatisfaction. Anna began to wonder if, by moving in with Mike, she had unintentionally given up something far more valuable: her independence, her sense of identity, and above all, her personal happiness. The life she was living now no longer felt like her own. Rather, it seemed as though she was living according to the needs and expectations of others, and that overwhelmed her. The idea that she was sacrificing her well-being for a life that wasn't truly what she wanted began to trouble her more and more. As these thoughts invaded her mind, a growing sense of loss enveloped Anna. She began to wonder if this was truly the life she wanted for herself. She realized that she had distanced herself from the small things that once brought her joy. Walking alone in the park, reading those books she loved, or simply having control over her own time. The role she had assumed in Mike's household was pulling her further away from her true self, disconnecting her from her essence. Over time, Anna understood that staying in that situation didn't benefit anyone, not her, as she felt her vitality and well-being fading away, nor her family, who, although they loved her, also depended on her in ways that weren't healthy for any of them. Staying meant continuing to contribute to a dynamic that was neither sustainable nor emotionally fulfilling. To regain her happiness and autonomy, something had to change, and that change had to start with her. The decision to leave and start over wasn't easy for Anna. She knew that choosing independence meant leaving behind the physical closeness with her grandchildren, a constant source of joy for her. Being present in their lives had given her moments of great happiness, and the thought of moving away brought her deep pain. However, she also understood that in order to be the mother and grandmother her family truly needed, she first had to find peace within herself, and that peace meant, above all, reclaiming her autonomy. the freedom to live on her own terms and the ability to make her own decisions without feeling bound by the expectations of others. Memories of her life before moving in with Mike began to flood Anna's mind with renewed strength. She recalled how, even after the loss of her husband, she had been able to find happiness in the small things, in her simple routine, surrounded by close friends and activities that truly fulfilled her. That time, though marked by grief, had also given her the chance to connect with herself on a deep level, providing her with a sense of peace and wholeness that she now missed dearly. The idea of returning to her hometown, where her roots were, and where she had always felt she could truly be herself, started to take shape in her mind as a viable option. Gradually, Anna realized that her happiness didn't solely depend on being close to her family all the time. What she truly needed was to find a balance between her love for her children and grandchildren and the care of her own soul and well-being. Living near her family was important, but not at the cost of losing herself. And so, she began to understand that her own fulfillment had to be a priority. After many nights of reflection, Anna finally reached a firm conclusion. If she wanted to preserve her dignity, take care of her mental health, and regain the happiness she so longed for, she would have to make a bold decision. She knew that facing this change wouldn't be easy, especially when the time came to communicate it to Mike and the rest of the family. However, she was also aware that this was the only way to regain control of her life. She no longer wanted to be a silent figure in her son's house, watching the days go by without feeling like she was truly living. She longed to be the master of her own destiny, even if that meant stepping back into uncertainty. With this clarity in mind, Anna began to carefully plan the next steps of her life. She knew that true happiness would only come if she had the courage to prioritize what was best for her, even if it meant leaving behind the comfort of the familiar and facing the temporary solitude of a new beginning. As she mapped out her path, her determination to do it for her own well-being grew stronger with each passing day. Finally, the day came. Anna, determined to take control of her life, gathered all the courage she had built up over the past few weeks. One morning, with the smell of freshly brewed coffee filling the air, she called Mike and Emily for an important conversation. As she sat down in front of them, her heart raced, but the words flowed from her lips with a serenity that even surprised her. "I've been doing a lot of thinking lately," she began, looking Mike directly in the eyes. "I believe it's time for me to follow my own path. I feel that I need to return to my home, to my life, where I can regain the peace and independence that I've lost here." In that moment, she knew she had made the right decision, despite the initial nervousness. Speaking honestly about her need for change filled her with an inner calm she hadn't felt in a long time. The silence that followed Anna's words felt endless, as if time had stopped. Mike and Emily looked at each other, their faces reflecting a mix of surprise and unease. Anna's decision had caught them off guard, and it wasn't easy to process what they had just heard. "But, Mom, are you sure?" Mike asked, his voice filled with concern. "The kids are going to miss you so much." Mike was trying to come to terms with the idea that his mother would no longer be around the house every day. He knew how much it meant to his children to have their grandmother close, and the thought of her leaving seemed to create a void that would be hard to fill. Anna took a deep breath, knowing how difficult this conversation was, both for her and for them. However, she was also completely certain that she was doing the right thing for her own well-being. "Mike, I love my grandchildren, and I will always be there for them when they need me," Anna replied calmly. "But I also know that I need more. I need to rediscover who I am and do the things that make me happy. If I don't do it now, I fear I'll lose myself forever." Emily, who had remained silent until that moment, nodded slowly, understanding the depth of what Anna was saying. Anna's life also deserved to be lived fully, with her own desires and dreams at the forefront. "We're going to miss you so much, but we want you to be happy," Emily finally said, her voice soft but full of empathy. "And if that means going back to your home, then that's what you should do." Emily's words of support were like a balm for Anna. She felt that, at last, she was understood. The relief of knowing her family supported her decision was immediate, giving her the emotional strength she needed to move forward. The day Anna returned to her hometown was filled with mixed emotions. As she packed her bags and prepared to leave, a blend of sadness and anticipation washed over her. Leaving Mike's house, a place that had been her home for a while, wasn't easy. She felt the pain of saying goodbye, but at the same time, the thought of returning to her own space, a place where she could live on her own terms, filled her with new hopes and expectations. It was a new chapter in her life, and although she knew it wouldn't be easy, she was excited for what was to come. When she finally arrived at her destination, Anna felt an immense weight lift from her shoulders. The emotional burden she had carried for so long seemed to evaporate the moment she set foot in her old house. As she opened the door, she was greeted by a deep, welcoming silence, so different from the noise and tension she had experienced at her son's home. This place was hers, her refuge, a space where she once again felt completely free. The sense of relief and freedom that washed over her in that moment was almost indescribable, as if every corner of the house invited her to reconnect with her most authentic self. In the days that followed, Anna began to rediscover the life she had left behind when she moved in with Mike. She resumed her beloved morning walks, enjoying the fresh air and the tranquility of the neighborhood. Soon, she reconnected with old friends who welcomed her with open arms, offering the warmth and familiarity she had missed so much. Not only that, but she also allowed herself to explore new hobbies she had always wanted to try, but had put aside for years, either due to lack of time or insecurities. Now, with a clear mind and a renewed spirit, she dared to pursue those pastimes that once seemed out of reach. Every small step she took toward her independence confirmed that she had made the right decision. Each day, Anna felt more alive, more connected to herself, and more aware of what truly mattered in her life. This return not only gave her back control of her daily routine, but also allowed her to reconnect with the woman she had been before, with her dreams, desires, and most importantly, her emotional well-being. She knew that this new stage of her life wouldn't be free of obstacles, but now she felt ready to face them. The difference was that this time, she would do so with the confidence and assurance of someone who had chosen her own path, someone who had decided to prioritize her happiness and well-being above all else. The freedom that once seemed unattainable was now a tangible reality in Anna's life, and she was determined to make the most of every moment of this personal rebirth. After years of living according to the needs of others, she finally had control of her own destiny. This new chapter in her life not only gave her the chance to reconnect with her essence, but also to reflect on the complexity of family relationships, especially when it comes to living arrangements between elderly parents and adult children. The delicate balance required in these situations is an art in itself, and Anna's experience clearly demonstrated how living too closely together can, paradoxically, create emotional distances and unexpected tensions. By deciding to move back to her own home, Anna wasn't just seeking the independence she longed for. She was also searching for something deeper, the need to establish healthy boundaries between herself and her family. She understood that physical distance, far from representing emotional detachment, could be an effective way to preserve and, in many cases, strengthen family bonds. When each person has their own space, visits become meaningful moments of true connection, free from the small tensions and frictions that often arise when sharing the same roof on a daily basis. This balance between closeness and distance is crucial for each family member to live fully and authentically. Adult children, no matter how much they love and respect their parents, need the space to build their own lives, with personal routines, raising their children, and nurturing their relationships. At the same time, older parents, like Anna, need an environment where they can continue to be autonomous, developing their own activities and interests. Anna realized that independence wasn't synonymous with loneliness, but with freedom, and that this distance allowed for a healthier relationship with her family, one where each person could flourish on their own terms. This rebirth in her life taught Anna that both love and respect within a family are nurtured not just by closeness, but also by each individual's ability to have their own space to grow and develop. When this balance between closeness and distance is achieved, family relationships gain a new dimension of quality, Physical separation not only creates a sense of nostalgia, but also makes visits and gatherings more consciously planned, strengthening mutual love and respect. That distance, instead of being seen as an obstacle, becomes a catalyst for ensuring that every meeting is marked by a genuine desire to share time, rather than by the pressure to meet imposed expectations. Now, when Anna visits Mike and his family, those gatherings are filled with genuine joy. Anna visits because she chooses to, not out of obligation, and her family welcomes her warmly, knowing that her presence is a gift, not a daily expectation. This new dynamic, based on choice and respect for personal spaces, has transformed their interactions, making every moment shared truly meaningful. The family bonds, which had previously been strained under the weight of forced cohabitation, are now strengthened in a healthy way. This balance fosters a more harmonious relationship, where each family member has the opportunity to grow and develop individually, without sacrificing their well-being for the sake of others. Parents like Anna can maintain their dignity and autonomy in old age, knowing they remain a valuable part of the family without losing themselves in the process. At the same time, the children learn to appreciate shared time from a more mature perspective, valuing each other's freedom and space. Anna discovered that by prioritizing her life and independence, she not only preserved her mental and emotional health, but also revitalized her relationship with her son and grandchildren. This new approach, based on respect and choice, has allowed her family bond to strengthen and grow richer, making the relationships more authentic and satisfying for everyone. This balance, although often difficult to achieve, is essential to ensure the well-being of everyone involved and to maintain healthy and lasting family relationships. When sacrifice becomes a constant and excessive practice, it can turn into a dangerous trap, especially for elderly parents. In their effort to protect and support their children, these parents often end up neglecting their own needs, desires, and personal interests. Anna, in her attempt to help Mike and his family, reached a point where, without realizing it, she had abandoned everything that brought her happiness and personal fulfillment. She firmly believed that by sacrificing her own desires, she was fulfilling her duty as a mother. However, over time, she realized that continuing down that path was leading her to a deep state of dissatisfaction. She had lost part of her identity in the process. What initially began as an act of love and unconditional devotion ended up transforming into resentment, not because she had stopped loving her children, but because deep down, she felt she had given up on herself. When parents fully devote themselves to their children's needs and expectations without tending to their own desires, they risk losing what makes them unique and happy. Over time, this constant sacrifice can lead to a feeling of emptiness, as if life has lost part of its purpose and meaning. Anna experienced this very process in her own life. Little by little, she distanced herself from the things that once made her happy. She stopped reading her favorite books, withdrew from social groups she used to enjoy, and even stopped caring for her physical and emotional well-being as she once did. As time went on, Anna realized that limitless sacrifice didn't make her a better mother or grandmother, but instead was disconnecting her from who she truly was. This lesson was tough, but it also allowed her to see the importance of finding a balance between giving to others and taking care of herself. All of this, done in the name of sacrifice, though born out of good intentions, began to drain both her energy and happiness. As a result, Anna started to feel a kind of resentment, not from a lack of gratitude, but from the sense that she had lost something very valuable, her own identity. It's crucial to understand that self-care is not an act of selfishness, but a fundamental necessity to stay balanced and able to support others. As the popular saying goes, you can't pour from an empty cup. If parents want to continue being a strong foundation for their children, they must first ensure that their own emotional, physical, and mental needs are met. When Anna finally decided to prioritize her well-being, she not only regained her enthusiasm for life, but also became a more present and fulfilled mother and grandmother, able to give her best without feeling drained. Anna's experience reminds us how important it is to find a balance between caring for others and caring for oneself, as this balance is essential for maintaining emotional health and healthy family relationships. Sacrifice is an inherent part of being a parent, but it shouldn't come at the cost of one's own happiness. When parents allow themselves to live their lives fully, they not only benefit themselves, but they also show their children the importance of living authentically and with balance. Ultimately, being happy and fulfilled is not just a right. It's also the foundation for building a loving and harmonious family environment. Anna's story reveals the crucial importance of maintaining independence in old age. As we grow older, there is often a social expectation that we should give up our own desires and needs for the benefit of the family, especially for our children. However, Anna's experience highlights that preserving autonomy and protecting our identity is essential for leading a full and satisfying life. Her decision to leave her son's house and return to her own home was much more than just a move. It was an affirmation of her dignity and a conscious choice to prioritize her happiness and well-being. Independence in old age doesn't mean distancing oneself or breaking family bonds, but rather finding a healthy balance where both parents and children can live fully, without unnecessary burdens or excessive sacrifices. Anna has understood that by prioritizing her own well-being, she has become a more present and fulfilled mother and grandmother, able to enjoy time with her family without the emotional exhaustion that comes with losing oneself. This balance is what allows family bonds to be strengthened, based on mutual respect and the appreciation of each person's individuality. For those who find themselves in similar circumstances, it's important to remember that seeking independence is not an act of selfishness, but rather a manifestation of self-love and recognition of one's own journey. Staying active, continuing to cultivate personal interests, and ensuring a space of your own are fundamental aspects of achieving a balanced life in old age. I invite you to reflect on your own needs and take control of your life by making decisions that foster your happiness and personal well-being. If necessary, talk with your family about your emotions and aspirations. True fulfillment, as Anna discovered, comes from living on your own terms, achieving a healthy balance between family responsibilities and personal care. Independence in old age is a gift we give to ourselves. It allows us to age with dignity, preserving what makes us unique and whole. By choosing independence, we are choosing to live fully, with the freedom to continue growing, learning, and, most importantly, being authentically who we are. This is the greatest legacy we can leave our children, the example of a life lived fully, guided by purpose and self-love. After following Anna's story and reflecting on the challenges and rewards that come with seeking independence in old age, it's time to look inward and ask yourself, how have you cared for yourself while managing family responsibilities? Have you given yourself the space to live according to your own desires and needs? Anna made a brave decision to regain her happiness and well-being. What could you change in your life to make it more fulfilling and satisfying? I invite you to reflect on your own experience and evaluate the decisions you've made up to this point. Perhaps it's time to have a conversation with your children, express how you feel, and set new boundaries that contribute to a healthier, more balanced relationship. Remember that your well-being is not only essential for you, but it also serves as an example and inspiration for those around you. If this story has touched you in some way, share this video with friends and family who could benefit from this message. Together, we can start a valuable conversation about the importance of independence and the path to a balanced life in old age. As Carl Jung once said, "A life not lived is a disease of the soul." Let's live with intention, courage, and the conviction that taking care of ourselves is the first step to being able to care for others. Share this reflection and help spread the message that true happiness begins when we learn to value our own journey. See you in the next video.